I'm too, so I'm just carrying on about this whole idea that women are different to men in how they express autism, which I do not agree with. Obviously, you are going to find some differences. On average, very broad brush, very, and I'll say those differences are mainly around the area of content of interest, but again, we don't want to be too generalistic about this. But I don't think that autistic women have better social skills than autistic men. I'm an autistic woman, and it's certainly not the case for me, and I do not think I'm an anomaly or a freak or someone from Mars. I don't think I'm an exception. I just think that what we're seeing now is the domination in a narrative from very, very able women, people like Melanie Sykes or Christine McGuinness, that can make it look as though that's the case, and I just don't think it is. And I think, unfortunately, what's happening now is this whole idea is leading to a new myth, a new stereotype, that there are somehow loads of women out there who are autistic and haven't been diagnosed, and I personally think a lot of them aren't actually autistic. And I think that basically, because if you think about it, I actually think the whole criteria of autism is being changed, and it bears hardly any resemblance to how it used to be. And that might also be why I don't feel at home in many autism groups, because a lot of them are made up of like these really able, socially able people, and I just don't relate to them at all. But anyway. Sorry, what am I trying to say? So I don't agree that women have better social skills than men. I just think that's a myth. I do think, obviously, I do think there has been a lack of diagnosis of women. I'm not denying that there's been a lack of diagnosis of women, and clearly there are far more autistic women out there than was originally assumed. But I do think a lot of it is down to clinical sexism as opposed to any real differences in autism. I think clinical sexism is a large part of it. People do not expect to see autism in women because of this whole sexism, that women are going to be a lot more social than men. So obviously you don't expect a woman not to be very social. When she isn't very good socially because of sexism, people think women should be really good socially and they're natural carers and empaths and everything. So when obviously a woman is not presenting like that, you don't think autism, because women can't be autistic, because that's a male condition, because it's extreme maleness. Oh no. But when a woman's presenting those exact characteristics, it's not, people often immediately don't think autism. They put it down to something else, because she's a girl. It's got to be something else, right? So I think it's mainly down to clinical sexism as opposed to any real differences between men and women. However, we mustn't ignore the fact that there may well be a very slight preponderance of autistic boys over autistic girls, just because if you look at most biological conditions, on average, slightly more boys, and it's only slight, but slightly more boys have conditions than girls. And that's because biologically, we cannot ignore the facts here, biologically, boys are slightly more vulnerable to girls. That is why, by the way, more boys are conceived, because from an evolutionary perspective, more of them die and are miscarried. And girls are just slightly stronger. Girl babies are just slightly stronger than boys. Only slightly, but it is there. And I would say that autism probably is not an exception to that rule. So I would say very slightly on average more autistic boys, and in actual fact syndromic autism, which is things like I think Fragile X and stuff like that, which can cause autism, it is associated with the male sex. So that might explain, again, we cannot ignore that in non-syndromic autism there is also slightly more boys than girls. But obviously, the massive discrepancy we saw in the past, I think a lot of that was down to clinical sexism. All I'm saying is that there probably will still be a very slight gap between boys and girls on a kind of biological level as well. But I don't think that autistic girls who are autistic are any more social. I think that's a myth. This whole idea, by the way, that girls mask difficulties and have learned how to interact. I just don't see that at all. I've met so many autistic people now, it's ridiculous. I really do not see this at all. I see lots of men who mask. I see lots of men who don't mask. I see lots of women who mask. I see lots of women who don't mask. I really do not see this whole idea. I see lots of very apparently socially able men who are autistic, who appear to be far more socially able than I am and have been able to have relationships and all sorts. So I just don't buy it. I think it's a load of crap from my experience. It talks about how tools failed at times in the ability to find autism, so had to be overruled by clinicians' ability to see it differently. So that comes down to clinical judgment as well. But this assumes that autism can be found independently of the tests that measure it, which is controversial. The article also mentions the problems inherent in a narrow lens in specialist autism pathway. So in other words, often you find autism is assessed. There's a developmental pathway for autism which assesses autism but nothing else, and this can raise problems because the broader needs are not examined, and that results in seeing everything through the autism lens, which inhibits a holistic approach to assessing the individual for a range of complex needs. That could potentially result in overdiagnosing autism, because a clinician who's trained in autism might, and if someone's having lots of difficulties and it looks like autism, then to them it is autism. But what if it's ADHD? What if it's caused by something else? You really need to have a range of tools in your armoury to really disentangle what's autism from those other conditions. If you're only looking at it from the autism lens, then obviously everything looks like autism, doesn't it? Or can look like autism, so that's a problem. Okay, so that's where the article ends. I think I'm going to have to discuss the next article another time, because I don't think I'm going to have time to discuss it now. My video is going to run out on me. The next article I'd like to discuss another time will be an article by Simon Baron-Cohen on the concept of neurodiversity, which looks at some of the controversies about neurodiversity, but it's a small article, so I'll try and cover that another time. Okay, so thank you for watching. Do leave comments, as I say. I will try for now. I will just comment in the boxes, but I do very much hope to do a comments video when I've got through all of this backlog of articles, so bear with me. Anyway, thank you for watching.